And I'll call our regularly scheduled board meeting to order. And we're going to begin with, not sadly, we're going to begin the Pledge of Allegiance, sadly, without our students to lead us. So we'll have to carry on without them. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's begin by adopting the agenda if there are no changes.
So moved. Goodburn.
Second, Boyd Nerona.
All right, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. We have 2 meeting minutes, and if there are no changes, that would be a motion to approve 1.4 and 1.5 meeting minutes, agenda items.
Move approval, Hembry.
All right, second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2.1, the superintendent's report. Dr. Hubbard.
Yeah, so we want to begin the evening by highlighting some of our biotechnology students who have been competing at the international level. Each year, 7 million people compete to enter in the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. Only 1,500 people in the world make it, and Shawnee Mission had 4 students qualify. They include Shawnee Mission East Junior Mia Stamos, Shawnee Mission West Senior Abigail West, Shawnee Mission East Senior Caleb Gilmore, and Shawnee Mission West freshman Elizabeth Barnes. Stamos won the Long Island University Award, which includes a $42,000 per year scholarship for 4 years at Long Island University, and she claimed 4th place in the biochemistry division. Her teacher, Kenneth Lee, shares that Stamos also started a prestigious internship at MRI Global. Congratulations, Dr. Lee and Zulma Perez Estrella, for all of your students have accomplished. Shawnee Mission South is celebrating its 2nd consecutive National Debate Championship team. Jeremiah Remsen Sr. and Maddie Augustine Jr. were declared champions at the National Catholic Forensic League National Championship. Last year, juniors Claire Bradley and Brooklyn Hato were policy debate champions. All of these students are coached by Shawnee Mission All-Star and Shawnee Mission South English Language Arts teacher Carolyn Cook. Shawnee Mission East Anya Bansel earned a perfect composite score on the ACT exam. A perfect score of 36 on the exam is something only about 0.25% of ACT test takers achieve. Congratulations to Bansel on this incredible accomplishment. Our spring sports athletes gave us so much to cheer for this past season, and we want to highlight a few here tonight. The Shawnee Mission East boys golf team won the state championship with Thomas Gogol, Sr. as an individual champion. In other individual accomplishments, Wyatt Houghton, Shawnee Mission East Sr., was state champion in the 800, 1600, and 3200 meter runs. Paige Mullen, senior from Shawnee Mission Northwest, is a state champion in the 3,200 meter run and placed 2nd in the 1,600 meter run. Raja Curtis, Shawnee Mission North Junior, is state champion in the triple jump, and we had more than 1,800 students participate in spring athletics, and we congratulate them, their families, and their coaches on an excellent season. And all of that long distance running makes me think I would need some oxygen. We want to remind everyone that free meals are available to children this summer. From 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., Monday through Friday until July the 28th, lunches are served at select sites. We will not have lunch bunch on June 19th, July 3rd, and July 4th because of Juneteenth and the 4th of July holidays. We'll include a link for more information and a list of lunch bunch sites in the board recap. We want to thank the Shawnee Mission School District Food Service Department for all of their work to provide lunches to children during the summer. We're glad to report that summer enrichment is now underway. Students are exploring in classes like art, music, technology, science, sports, and more. There are also satellite classes being offered here at the Center for Academic Achievement. Enrollment remains open, so we will include a link in the recap for those who want more information. We also want to remind everyone that enrollment for pre-kindergarten and kindergarten is open for the 23-24 school year in Shawnee Mission. Children who will be 4 years old on or before August 31st are eligible for pre-K, and children who are 5 5 years old on or before August 31st are eligible for kindergarten. We'll include a link in the recap for anyone wanting more information and are ready to enroll. We're working with the communication team on the 23-24 transportation enrollment information, which will be shared via email with families. While we are relatively stable with our driver numbers, we are still working with fewer drivers than we would like to in order to cover all of our needs. We have evaluated plans for the coming year and plan to hold with the transportation procedures put into place in January of 2023, which include high school student pay routes only for those students living beyond 2 miles from the school. We will continue to work with and support our contracted provider as they work to recruit bus drivers to support our student transportation programs. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hubbard. I'm going to look to board members for item 2.2 on our agenda for board reports. Ms. Boyd-Nerona, any update from SMAC PTA?
None at this time.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to go down the list. Ms. Owsley, anything from the Education Foundation?
Our meeting is actually tomorrow night, so I don't have an update this evening.
Okay. Mr. Stratton, how about from our Board of Directors?
A week
Like
ago.
KASB, I should say.
Yes, KSB met, the board met a week ago, primarily covering the legislative session that just concluded, updates on the upcoming elections, and then talking about the upcoming programming this fall. The main event is the convention, which is November 10th to 12th in Wichita.
All right, thank you. Let's see. I think that takes us down to Policy Review Committee. Ms. Goodburn?
Yes, we have a meeting scheduled this Thursday, June 15th at 7:30 a.m.
Okay. Back to Mr. Stratton. Do we have our next date for?
Yes, the next meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee is August 24th.
Okay. I believe that concludes a quick update on board reports. I'm looking up and down. All right. Thank you. Okay. Item 3.1, this is our one and only discussion item on the strategic planning update for semester 2. Dr. Hubbard.
Yeah, so this report will conclude year 4 of our cycle 1 of strategic planning, and Dr. Neal's going to give a brief update, and then I'll circle back in the end to talk about our next steps.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Shelley, are you able to drive this? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll let you go ahead and drive it then. PowerPoint presentation, right? Yes, please. There we go.
My apologies.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for the opportunity. It just seems not that long ago that we were here in January. We had a kind of a mid-year update, and so this will be sort of the wrap-up of this year and some of the things that took place during the second semester with progress on our strategic plan. It's exciting to see the work really moving through as we are nearing sort of the close to this phase 1, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that next step looks like at the very end. So going forward, just a reminder, the mission is at the core and at the center of everything that we do. The strategic plan in Shawnee Mission really does drive the work. And I want to highlight those 3 objectives, if we move to the next slide, that were agreed upon by the original sort of steering committee and have really driven everything that we do, including the connection with KESA around ensuring that every student has, a challenging personalized learning plan, that they're developing and using personal resilience, mastering those competencies that are necessary for college and career readiness, and then developing those interpersonal skills so that they can be engaged, they can be empathetic, and they can be really contributing to that local and global community. As we look into those areas, our strategy areas, teaching and learning certainly is really key to the work that we do every day. We had one action team. Action team 1 4-5. They continued meeting this year. They met monthly throughout the first 3 quarters and met once during the fourth quarter. They were looking at researching those successful practices around evidence-based feedback and evidence-based grading. And they interviewed and looked at 15 schools or school districts that were regional or across the state, and culled information from them around sort of their best practices, what their experiences had yielded, as a way to sort of inform the work that we want to do here in Shawnee Mission. They developed a framework around that, and their plan for that kind of looking ahead is to move forward next year with a pilot around evidence-based feedback. And so they'll be finalizing those details early in the 23-24 school year, and then launching a pilot for evidence-based grading and feedback in Shawnee Mission this coming school year. So more to come. We'll bring you updates as we get moving forward on that in Strategy 1. I wanted to be sure to connect again the work with the KESA, our accreditation process, around those focus areas. And we had, if you'll move to the next slide, we had a great opportunity to conclude year 5 as part of that accreditation review. We had a wonderful day spent with the outside visiting team that Kim Barney led and has reported on. They provided us feedback for us to consider as we move forward. That report was submitted to the Accreditation Review Board, and we're looking forward to hopefully receiving that information soon. So in 23-24, we'll begin that next cycle of KESA. And so I think one of the things that was loud and clear from our visiting team, the feedback that they gave us, they were really impressed with how tightly we were connecting our strategic plan, and that informed that KESA work, and everything that we're doing was so cohesive and connected that it wasn't we were just doing one thing here and then we were layering on here. It was truly we were moving all of the processes forward, and so that was something that they noted, and I think that's something we're committed to continuing because we can see the fruits of those efforts really in the work that we're doing in classrooms every day. So just to let you know, even though we're kind of partnering, we'll begin that KESA process, we'll begin that planning process for that next phase of our strategic planning, those things will continue, we believe, to go really marry very well together and work very well together so that we can leverage all those processes in a positive way. All right, the next area is around culture. And so in the second semester, some of the celebrations we had some enhancements within our Skyward management, kind of our student information management platform of Skyward, that's going to allow approved preferred student names to be utilized for class rosters and for those associated platforms. So we were able to now have that as part of that management platform. I think it's important for you to know here too that those approved names are parent-approved names. Parents are part of that process, and they do sign off on any changes that are made to it, like to a student's educational record that would include any change in that preferred name. Updated processes for requesting to add that approved preferred student name. So we're making sure that we have that more consistently across the district. And we also have an updated employment screening tool that we're utilizing with applicants so that they have an opportunity to share with us as part of that interview process or that application process their experiences around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Our DEIB teams are providing support in every one of our buildings, and we had opportunities during this school year to provide, to connect those building teams, to provide them with professional learning opportunities, and our building goals also reflect those diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging focus areas that are important and embedded as part of our strategic plan work. We have 30 equity practitioners district-wide, and those individuals have had some additional layers of training, and they're doing great work out there supporting our building DEIB teams. And then during our instructional fair that we held in January, our DEIB, we had DEIB-related sessions, and those were presented by our equity practitioners and our building team members. So they had a chance to collaborate together and to share some of that training with colleagues across the district as part of that instructional fair. The Superintendent's Advisory for DEIB continued to meet quarterly, and we also this year were able to add specific DEIB items in the walkthrough tool that we're utilizing as we, as administrators and others go through classrooms and look at the work that's being done in the classrooms. So making sure we have that lens as part of that. Our Shawnee Mission Human Resource Team continued to develop great relationships with universities, wanting again to build on and expand those opportunities for our para certification and other programs aimed at increasing and diversifying our candidate pool, helping us to cast a wider net and to be able to do some encouragement and growth within our own team members to move them forward in some other opportunities. We also had a wonderful teacher education college fair. I think I gave a preview of that in January, but that was held. It was very successful, offered an opportunity for our students that were enrolled in our high school teacher ed programs, our teacher prep programs, to meet with local universities and learn about those teacher education programs at post-high school that they can, they had just a opportunity to meet with and just to be focused on them and learning more about how they might continue that career path. And we also invited paraeducators to attend that event as well, so that they could also meet to talk about continuing education and pathways toward teacher licensure for those individuals who are interested in pursuing that. That was a great experience. And you'll see in the next slide our look ahead. We plan to host another one in the coming year. We also have added DEIB as part of our district annual training requirements, those beginning of the year annual trainings. Those also have some items included there to ensure that we're sharing those diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging pieces as part of our annual trainings. So looking ahead, we're going to continue to communicate with our district families and our staff around inclusive practices and procedures for our transgender students. We're also, as I mentioned, planning to hold and host another teacher education college fair in November. And we have, as you know, we'll be transitioning to a new DEIB coordinator, and that individual will have some dedicated time in front of all of the new staff members, new team members that will be joining the Shawnee Mission School District as part of the new teacher academy or new team member academy, I should say, in August of 2023. Okay. All right. The work around quality educators. So celebrations from the conclusion of this school year, we had expanded behavioral health opportunities through our district's health clinic. You might recall that that was an area that we had received, we knew that there was a need for, and so we have successfully been able to expand those opportunities, and people are able to avail themselves of that support through our health clinic. We focused a lot this year around professional learning communities and utilizing those as a tool or a vehicle for building professional practice, improving personalized learning and instruction, and allowing opportunities for our professionals, our teachers, to come together to really look at data and to really move those instructional practices forward. Our middle and high schools utilize late starts to do that, and at our elementary level this year, you'll recall that they had several options where they could meet and collaborate in PLCs this year. And just a reminder that through the ESSER funding, we're continuing to reduce that elementary class size, and that will continue through this next year. All right, the work around systems. We had a lot of work this year around response to intervention, or RTI. Working with our administrators, both at the district and at the building level, we were able to come to consensus and commitment around RTI. It was important from the committee that the action team that worked on this, one of the things that they shared that was really important and what they really wanted to know was how are we going to ensure that we have a common understanding, a common language and vocabulary around RTI district-wide. And so we've come to that, we've built that consensus, and now we'll be moving, we've kind of started the professional learning around that, and that will be a focus area as we move forward next year, some things that we'll be looking ahead toward related to professional learning specific to response to intervention in the coming year. We also reviewed the interventionist role to make that more consistent across our schools. We reviewed and updated those position descriptions so that they're going to be able to provide more consistent support district-wide, particularly for students in that Tier 3 area for response to intervention. And as you know, you've seen that the RTI guidebook for student success, we say it was completed, but that's really sort of completed because we continue, we want that to be a living document, and so we'll continue to build on that, and we'll continue to do professional learning so that it's a tremendous guidebook, but it has a lot of information, has a lot of resources there, and so we want to make sure that everyone knows about the guidebook, knows how to find things within that and the resources that they need, and so that's something that we'll continue working on in the coming year as well. So looking ahead, we continue to have some support with Solution Tree, but also our Lead and Learn team, and they will provide that ongoing professional learning during the leadership retreat for our administrative team members, and then also through the pre-service professional learning, and then continue that throughout the year at other opportunities where we'll have professional learning either when we're all coming together or providing it to our building leaders who will then continue and carry that out at their own buildings as well. And then I already shared with you about the interventionists. Those are the individuals that will be providing a little bit more consistent support at Tier 3. And then that brings us to our facilities. We have a lot of celebrations. As you know, John Deemer was completed and it opened January 2023. Rushton moved successfully to its temporary location at the former Westwood View, and their building is well underway. Pawnee took a small move over to Indian Creek for the fourth quarter so that we could finish up that important work that we needed to do on the front area around drives and play spaces and some of those things, so that that building and its grounds will be nearing completion and be ready to welcome students for the coming year. Tomahawk, which is our fifth and final building from this bond in the elementary area. Its design process is moving forward, and we're looking forward to that coming to light in the coming year. And we're very excited to announce that the Westwood View project is the first of our buildings to achieve a LEED Silver certification. We're responding to the final pieces there, and so we'll bring you more information on when we'll have a plaque and we'll be able to officially say Westwood View is our first LEED certified facility in Shawnee Mission, and then the other elementary schools will follow. We're tracking those and making sure that they're on track also for those LEED certifications. Shawnee Mission East, their large classroom addition, restroom, and courtyard renovations were completed. Westridge, their student collaboration space on the first and second floors, courtyard, outdoor classroom, and restroom renovations. Those were large projects there that were completed. And then at Horizons, their cafeteria remodel, and then they have some collaboration areas and some restroom upgrades that were a part of their bond work. Looking ahead, we'll be excited to welcome students to the new Pawnee and also to follow along with Tomahawk in its design process, and then anticipate that those students will move to their temporary location, which will be at Indian Creek during winter break, and then construction will begin after that. And I would be remiss if I didn't celebrate that the Early Childhood Center Phase 2, special thanks to the team there. They're very excited. They boxed up everything, and they're eagerly anticipating the bond work there to improve that facility and to make it a little bit more early childhood friendly and independent for those young learners. Shawnee Mission South is undergoing restroom renovations throughout. They've got a cafeteria, a storefront glass addition that will go in there that will be a great addition. They're doing some renovations on the gym. They're going to be turning that into a training facility, and then their weight room that they've been using, that's going to be renovated into a fitness center for use by students. And then the addition of an ADA elevator at that building, also an important addition. Hawker Grove, they are undergoing some covered walkway connecting classroom wings, an addition, and some outdoor learning spaces. And then Trail Ridge, they are not only having their main drive and parking lots, but they're renovated, but they're going to actually flip their main entry, and so that will be actually on the opposing side, and that should help with traffic as well as just some of that day-to-day traffic flow. All right, and then our look ahead, Dr. Hubbard?
Thank you, Dr. Neal. I just want to remind everyone that we're in year 4 of 5, and so I'm getting actually lots of inquiries about how do I get involved in the next cycle, and so we're actually working right now to prepare the timeline for that cycle 2 for 2024 through 2029. And in August of 2023, we'll be presenting the planning process and the tentative timeline here in the boardroom as part of the superintendent's report or a discussion item, one of the two. But we'll have that complete process, how to be involved, and the timelines for all those, whether it be the steering committee or action planning committees. And then in December of 2023, we'll actually launch that planning process, which for those of you that remember cycle 1, we're duplicating the process we launched in December of, I should know that date, but I don't, December of that year, maybe 18. And no, yeah, 19. 19, thank you. And then in June of 2024, we will be bringing this cycle 2 plan to be presented to the board for approval to begin implementation of August of 2024. So we'll be watching for all those timelines. But this August of 2023, we will have the completed timeline for everyone to have in front of them.
Okay, so Dr. Hubbard, thank you for the timeline to establish the process. I think that's very helpful to anticipate some questions. And Dr. Neal, thank you for the update. So I'm going to look to board members to see if you have any questions, and maybe we route them through Dr. Hubbard, and then she can push one there. Yep, Ms. Borgman.
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Neal. I appreciate it. And I can't believe it's year 4. This is crazy. And I know Mr. Stratton was board president when the strategic plan first kind of kicked off in our district. And thank you, Mr. Stratton, for all of the work that went into that, because I think it's really set our district up, for some pretty big success in the, 4 years now. So I just have a couple quick questions. Thank you again. This was a great overview. With regards to the DEIB trainings that you had mentioned, I know that this was definitely emphasized by our community as something that was very important to the community, and I'm very thankful for that. And so I'm just kind of curious from just a high level, kind of what is involved with the DEIB trainings and what those look like and who teaches those, and maybe just like a high level overview of that.
So yeah, strategy 2 definitely came up with all of the goals for our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And then sort of in the middle of the process, we added belonging because we felt like it was important just to ensure that everyone felt like they belong. Our original work was with Corwin, and that was early in the cycle. And then I'm going to toss it to Dr. Ziegler because she can talk more specifically about what it's looked like since we've taken on that training ourselves.
So one of the things that Dr. Neal spoke to is this year, as we are transitioning away from our previous partnership, we had opportunities for building leadership teams, the building DEI teams that are working alongside those building leadership teams to come together on 2 different dates. We had a fall and a spring date that are equity practitioners, that those are our 30 individuals that are teachers and instructional coaches and administrators that have gone through additional training. They help facilitate that time for building teams to come out of the buildings and connect and really have some opportunity to be thought partners about work that's happening at the building level across the district. One of the things that we learned about and spent a lot of time on was building tone and trust so that we can have meaningful conversations around areas where we need to improve at individual building levels. We've started to use our data in more succinct ways, more purposeful ways, so each building will meet in their building teams through their professional learning opportunities and talk about where they're at in their building with data and the goals that they set. And then they will develop training at the building level with support from those equity practitioners along the way based on the individual needs of their buildings. But really a lot of the work it's culture work. It is looking at the needs of our students, what the data is telling us, what our subgroup performance looks like in the buildings, and making sure that we are not missing any barriers to continue to elevate challenging academic achievement opportunities for all learners in our schools.
Important work. And I just want to make sure that I heard correctly that we are no longer utilizing the Corwin training. Is that correct?
We have not utilized the Corwin training or had trainers for our building teams at all in this last year at the building level.
Okay, thank you. And I have another question too, but I can wait if I.
Well, how about, does anybody have any questions about strategy 2? Do you mind, let's kind of keep it maybe strategy focused, that might be helpful. Okay, yes, Ms. Hembury.
Sorry, my question was just equity practitioners. I don't know how we arrived at the number of 30, but I'm curious if there's one at each school or how we picked the 30 and how we make sure that they're kind of covering our many locations.
So part of that was after we went through the initial couple of years of the strategic plan is opening that opportunity up to those that were engaged in the work at their buildings and wanting to go further. So I would have to go back and look at our roster. I can't tell you that we have one in every building, but we do have a partnership of 2 equity practitioners assigned to support as partners for every building.
Thank you.
Is that something that, I'm sorry, so I'm going to add on to just that I was thinking about that. If there is another wave of folks who want to become equity practitioners, is that something that's built into the process?
I love that question, yes, and we have heard from a number of people since school has gotten out, and we've connected them in with the process for getting involved for the fall.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions on strategy 2? Okay, I'm going to go back to you, Ms. Borgman, because you had another. Okay.
So I know that we talked a lot about the behavioral health and just making sure that we're meeting the needs of our SMSD employees. And you had mentioned, Dr. Neal, there's expanded behavioral health opportunities. Could you just share with us what does that mean?
Right. Dr. Schumacher, I'm going to toss it to you.
Yeah, so last year we added to the hours for our behavioral health specialists in the health clinic. And so she is booked solid. She actually has a waiting list. So we've created, along with Marathon Health, a list of community partners who can help out if they're on that waiting list. We're also looking at the potential of adding some more FTE. And so we are currently actually in conversations with Marathon Health about the cost of that, the pricing of that, and the feasibility of adding even more. So we have added to it, and we're using our EAP as well. And so our employees have access to those counselors through our EAP if they can't get into the clinic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Ms. Hembury?
I have just a couple. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neal, for the update, and thank you for laying it out so clearly. I think one of the things that really strikes me about our strategic plan is how much it is a community-driven and community-owned document. This doesn't feel like it's any of our documents. It doesn't feel like it's Dr. Hubbard's documents. It doesn't feel like it's anyone's. It feels like it's all of ours, which I think makes me feel like it has some good staying power, and I really appreciate that. My question I have two. My first is about what evidence-based grading and evidence-based feedback even means. As a parent, I can imagine what that looks like, but I don't know for sure.
Sure. Dr. Stubblefield, do you want to take that since Dr. Dennis is away?
Yeah, you bet. So evidence-based grading is where you are not assigning an actual letter grade, but you're giving a number system to the learning, and it's mostly mastery of learning. So you give multiple opportunities for students to achieve mastery of a particular subject, and then it is given usually a 1 through a 4 grading system.
And is this on the, like, I've started seeing like priority standards at the beginning of the year. My students' teachers will share with me, these are the priority standards for this year.
Yeah.
So it would be aligning
Right, yeah.
grading that might be a number rather than a letter with those priority standards.
Yeah, so it would line directly with our priority standards. So teachers know what those priority standards are, and students would get an opportunity to master those priority standards.
I'm going to add a couple things to that. I'm going to give you the actual working definition that we have, so I'm going to read it specifically. So it's a feedback system that communicates students' level of understanding of essential learning targets based on an ongoing collection of multiple pieces of evidence as part of their personalized learning plan. I also want to point out that it doesn't necessarily mean we'll do away with letter grades, especially at the secondary level. That merely we will use both to help students and parents understand how grades reflect actual learning. And we have conducted surveys with families and staff to find out what's important, and have conducted research to find out how this has worked in other school districts. So we have teams still working in that direction.
And I would share from the early childhood standpoint, we shifted a little bit to that. Actually, we're a couple of years in, and that was really driven by our practitioners because the kind of the grade card that we had was more of a checklist, and it wasn't as helpful at the early learning level as being a real conversation tool and helpful to families. And so we shifted that more to look toward what those standards are, and we've had a really good experience with that, and it's been very helpful to families as more of a conversation starter and helping them see what that progress is and helping give them examples, as Dr. Stubblefield said, around how their children are progressing or meeting some of those learning targets.
One more thing I would add is, as almost everyone pointed out or referenced, a state standard or a priority standard or a learning target, all of those are based on KSDE's state standards.
Got it. Well, I've appreciated it with, like, my youngest just finished kindergarten, and some of those priority standards, you know, my oldest is now going into to 8th grade, and when he was in kindergarten, it was just, you know, plus sides or little upside down carrots, and I would just be like, oh, wait, way to go. But my younger one, it's really broken down by, can they write from 0 to 20? He's hitting that out of the park. 21 to 100, we still have some work to do. So it's been a level of detail that's been helpful for me as a parent to, like, know what to be working with him on, which is writing.
Thank you.
So I like it. My second question, if I can, was just about one of our strategies is around RTI and response to intervention, which I always like kind of struggle to get my head around because it's really like deep in the education world. But I'm curious, there's been a lot of like research coming out of COVID about the importance of high dosage tutoring. And in my mind, RTI creates a pathway to high dosage tutoring for students who need it, but I don't know if I'm making that connection right.
So Tier 3 intervention would be the highest dose of intervention for students, but Dr. Stubblefield and his team have been working a lot with this, so I'm going to pass it to him.
So are you just asking if it correlates to tutoring?
Like, is there high dosage tutoring at some point in the RTI system if a student may need it?
Yeah, so I think for us, we've mainly been focused on that Tier 1 and what good Tier 1 intervention looks like. Because if you do Tier 1 correctly, then you have less students that are needing Tier 2 interventions and then Tier 3 interventions. So it's really about those teachers in the classroom being able to differentiate what those lessons look like in that Tier 1. But then again, obviously progressing through Tier 2 and then interventionists working directly with students at that Tier 3, which is, I think, what you're getting at.
So there is a pathway where if a student needs it, we will.
You bet. Yeah, and our interventionists will be focused on that.
Thank you.
I have a related question, so I'm going to jump in if anybody else does. Okay. So kind of still within that strategy 1. So the evidence-based grading and priority standards, is that kind of a driver of equity in education? So is that by identifying those priority standards, is that how we get to a viable curriculum and we're more confident about equity in terms of our educational achievement? Am I linking those correctly, I guess?
I think you could link that with our PLCs. I think that's kind of how you get to that equity, is those professional learning communities and having those data-driven conversations within PLCs, so that that curriculum is going to be guaranteed and viable across the district.
Yeah, I would add that the curriculum itself would be the viable and guaranteed piece that we're reaching for, but I agree. I think the tiered intervention gets more to the equitable practices for all students.
I appreciate that. Turn that off. Okay. Before I jump back to any questions there? Okay. All right.
Along the RTI, you had mentioned, Dr. Neal, that there's a guidebook for success, and it sounds like a guidebook with a ton of pearls in it. And something I worry about just, in my job is that we create these guidebooks, manuals, so on and so forth, and they get forgotten about. So how are we utilizing these guidebooks in our schools? How are we going to make sure that, the information is shared?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So we just kind of finished putting the finishing touches on the guidebook. So right now we had some initial training with our principals. Our principals will then take those trainings back to their buildings and lead their schools through the guidebook. And we also have tremendous help and support with our curriculum coordinators throughout the district. So they'll be working directly with instructional coaches, our principals, our assistant principals. That's how we plan to make sure that the guidebook gets down to the building level.
I would add to that also. So the guidebook's not totally new, and they say we're finished. We've been working on it for probably 3 years now, and I feel like we finally just kind of put the icing on the cake. But I want to remind everybody that was a strategic planning committee that had over 50 practitioners. So we had teachers, coaches, principals. So there were a lot of people that do the work day in and day out in our classrooms on those committees. So it's not like we just sit here and created the book and we're going to pass it out there. It really was a grassroots effort.
And they were committed to, they worked really hard to make it something that I think is going to be a terrific resource. But one of the kind of their finishing pieces was, again, around coming back to us and saying, how are we going to make sure, how do we ensure that all of the work and all of the information that's in here is, how do we close that loop? And so I think Dr. Hubbard did a great job of really talking about who was on that committee, and the tremendous amount of work under Krista Carson did a great job leading that work, and we're excited about taking that forward now and helping it to be, now we're kind of unpacking it and helping people out in the buildings know it's here are the things that are in here, here's where you can find these things around interventions and responsibilities of different individuals to ensure that we're kind of implementing that RTI process consistently and kind of really rolling it out district-wide in the coming year.
I think one last thing with that is, it's that committee did develop the guidebook, but is deeply, deeply rooted in best practice, especially with Solution Tree. So again, incredible research, credible research, best practices. That guidebook is certainly has all those components.
Well, thank you. A collective thank you to all of you for bringing this to us. And I think
I just wanted to say on strategy 5, with regards to the Trail Ridge, the renovation of the main drive and parking lots with new bus loop, this is huge. And so I am very thankful to see this because this is a real problem. So I think this is going to maybe even take away a few gray hairs from people.
I would say the same for Hawker. I mean, as a Trail Ridge parent, I hear you and feel you, but also if you drive down Johnson Drive, it's the same problem. So I think those two middle schools will greatly benefit from the reconfiguration and then the addition of the bus loop at Hawker.
It's huge.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, we are now at the consent item. So I am, unless there are any changes, I am seeking approval for our consent items, which brings us from 4.1 to 5.7.
Move approval. Goodburn.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Ousley.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, our first action item, 6.1, is ratification of the PNA. I'm going to move to Dr. Hubbard.
Yeah, so I'm recommending that the Board of Education ratify before I do that, I want to say a couple things about all of these action items tonight. So you're going to see multiple agreements with different groups of our employees, as well as administrative contracts. But I just want to remind everyone that we, in May, approved our classified salary compensation package, which provided, if you'll recall, in addition to our normal percentage, we had taken additional dollars that we had to really try to ramp up that classified schedule because we felt like we had classified employees that were just way below the market value. And while we would have loved to have given more, we feel really good about the package that they did receive, which some employees ranged from 8 to 18% increases with an overall compensation package of 10.5%. And in addition to this classified employees and all of the employees we're going to talk about tonight, we will also, employees will be receiving a $1,000 retention payment as part of ESSER on top of all of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So just thought it was important to add that. So I think overall for all of these employee groups, we had great competitive packages for our staff this year. So on 6.1, I would like to recommend that the Board of Education ratify the professional negotiated agreement with NEA Shawnee Mission, effective from July 1, 2023 through June 30 of 2024. The PNA was ratified by the professional employees on May 23rd of 2023. In addition to a few other items in the agreement, this provides an increase of 6.75 in the overall compensation package for certified employees.
All right, I'm going to seek a motion.
Move approval. Goodburn.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Boardman.
Okay, any questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item 6.2, approval of leave and benefits manual for administrators.
Yeah, I would like to recommend approval of the updated leave and benefits manual for administrators. A couple things were just cleanup items in this manual, and then other items that were adjusted due to the things that were negotiated with the teachers that we needed to update in this manual as well.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you. A second?
Second, Hembry.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 6.3, approval of agreement between the board and Shawnee Mission NEA parent educators.
So I'd like to recommend the approval of the PNA dated July 1, 2023 through June 30 of 2024 between the Board of Education of Shawnee Mission District and NEA Shawnee Mission parent educators. This provides an increase of 6.59% in the overall compensation package for parent educators.
All right. Do I have a motion to
Move
approve?
approval. Goodburn.
Thanks. Second?
Boyd Nerona.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, 6.4, approval of agreement between the Board of Education of Shawnee Mission and school psychologists.
So I would like to recommend the approval of the PNA dated July 1, 2023 through June 30th of 2024 between the Board of Education of Shawnee Mission School District and the school psychologist. This provides an increase of a 6.5% in the overall compensation package for school psychologists.
All right, do I have a motion?
So move Boyd Nerona.
Thank you. Second?
Goodburn.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And 6.5, approval of administrative contracts.
Yeah, so I'd like to recommend approval of all administrators to receive a 4.5% increase in their 2023 salary, except in cases of market-based adjustments as appropriate. This provides an increase of 5.57% in the overall compensation package for administrative employees.
Okay, do I have a motion? Second?
Goodburn.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That was a fun set of action items. All right, 7.1, comments from board members. Anybody have anything they'd like to share? Mr. Stratton.
Well, we just got done voting on quite a few important documents, so I want to recognize all the people in the room that are here that spend a lot of time working towards this end. It's really nice, as a board member that's been here for 8 years, to finalize the contract before they begin in July 1. So thank you to the negotiating team, thank you to the representatives from the teachers, et cetera. We appreciate this. It's a nice way to move into the summer. So thank you to all who spent so much time working on behalf of this district.
Yes, thank you. All right. I believe then that concludes our meeting for tonight, and we will see you all again on June 26th. Thank you.